Hello and good afternoon, friends. Today we're going to be taking a look at a septic system from 1961. So this will be a fun one. It's going to have a little bit of unique features that you don't usually get to see every day, and I want to take you with me. So let's go ahead, dive into these records, see what we're working with, and I'll show you what we're looking at outside. Alrighty, so 1961 is when this system was originally installed, but in 1985, it looks like we had ourselves a failure. So they had a failing dry well, right? And in that time period, this is what they were told to install. So they were told to install 2 extra pits with a 1,000-gallon pump chamber that has an alarm. This is roughly what we should see on the property. We should see the tank to 2 pits. So let's go ahead, take a look outside, see if everything matches with what this paperwork says we should see in the ground. All right, so first thing we have a two-way clean out, right? From there, the water line's gonna go over to here. And the sewer line will continue to our tank. From our tank, we have a pump chamber. Based off the records, the old system should be over here, and the new system should be somewhere over yonder. Now, you may be wondering, what is all these pipes doing? What is the purpose of all of this? Why would they have so many things? Well, so with the two-way clean out, you'll usually see these on homes that have had clogs in the past. Mostly, they're houses that have cast iron piping, or at least in our area, that's what we'll see. A two-way clean out is basically a U-shape, where when you put the auger in, you can go towards the house, or you can go towards the tank, depending on whatever direction you want to go. And they do that so we can clear whatever clogs might have worked their way into the pipe without having to pull a toilet or run the risk of having to open anything in the house and having sewage come back to you. We're gonna go ahead and pop open these lids, see where the water level is, then we're gonna run some water into the system. Now, the reason we wanna run water through is to make sure that the pipes are open, water's flowing the way that it's supposed to flow, but also that pump works. Pump chambers are kind of like a big glorified sump pump. You're gonna have a big ejector pump in there that shoots all that water up to the new distribution box and the new drain fields or dry wells. So the way that we test to see if it works is put some water in, see what it does. So we're gonna pop open these lids and we're gonna see what's in there. All right, so we have our lids off. Now we get to play the fun game of what is this mystery pipe going through the riser. We can see our inlet line with all sorts of dirt and clay pipe coming through it. We don't know what this pipe is though. From here, we'll actually go to the pump chamber. There's gonna be this little fella. We also can see that we have a new alarm right over here, where hopefully, if we pull the float, the alarm should go off to tell us that something's gone wrong. Now, if we look in here, we will see we have an inlet line right here, right? And then we have an overflow pipe right there. Unfortunately, the records don't show that overflow pipe, so we need to figure out what's going on over here, and we need to figure out what that other pipe is. Older systems, you never really know what you're gonna get. So hopefully that pipe is a benign just pipe, but it very well could just be that somebody didn't feel like plumbing correctly and they just went through the riser and through the other side of the tank. So I'm gonna grab my mirror and my flashlight. We're gonna take a peek inside the tank and see if we can figure out what's going on over there. While we do that, we're gonna run some water into this pump chamber, see if we can get the pump to turn on and see if we can get water to the pits up the way. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll see you in a few seconds. All right, so while we're looking at this pump chamber, we can see those blocks on the bottom. That's the pedestal that's holding up the pump. So that's to make it so that way you're not sucking solids through the pump and you're just pumping liquid to the absorption system. Now, unfortunately, the water level was well below that when we got here. So that means that the thing's leaking, which is not a good thing. In Maryland, all pump chambers are required to be watertight. You're also supposed to have it to where everything doesn't have roots and all coming into the tank, like you can see right over here and right on this part right back here. With root intrusion in the pump chamber, and the pump chamber obviously leaking, that means that we have to say that this pump chamber needs to be replaced. The tricky part for a property like this is that technically they have public sewer as an option. The county is going to usually be very reticent to allow a permit for a replacement if public sewer is an option. Oftentimes they'll actually force you to go towards the public route rather than permitting a new absorption system. So this type of thing can get pretty tricky pretty quick. This is a prime example though of why you want to make sure you get an inspection prior to purchasing a property. Now, with something like this, as a homeowner, would you ever have noticed? Probably not, right? It only becomes a problem when you get a property transfer inspection, and the reason why is that there's more regulations and rules. Leave a comment below. When you purchased your house, did you have an inspection done? If so, what happened? Was it good? Was it bad? Did something happen in between? Let me know. I'm curious. So now we know that the pump chamber is not good. I've looked inside the tank. Baffle's not good. That needs to be replaced. It's an older tank, but it is concrete, so that's a step in the right direction. So now what we need to do is we need to go take a look at the new absorption system, which is going to be in the front yard, see what kind of access points we have, see what it looks like, and we still need to figure out what's that mystery pipe. So let's go ahead and look up front, see what we're working with, and we'll go from there. All right, so we've got 2 pits up front that were installed much later than when this house was built. So we have one cast iron clean out here. As you can see, this one is all sorts of damaged and broken, and basically we just have these rocks as our access point. This is the remnants of part of the clean out. Might have got hit by a tree branch, or might have been hit by a car. Who knows? I mean, there's a large tree right behind me, so it's very possible that a branch fell on this at one point and smacked it. Is our second one, right? So we also have an identical cast iron clean out right over here, but you can also see where it's fairly shallow. You can see the top of the lid for the dry well is poking out. Not the end of the world, but that will chew up your mower blades. So it's a good idea if you ever have an exposure like that, that you get some kind of additional sod or soil, just so you're not breaking your blades every day. So now we see our access. Both of these pits look like they're in pretty good shape. There's no water in them, which is a good thing. We need to fill up that pump chamber and see, are they absorbing correctly? So we want to fill that pump chamber, get the pump to cycle so we can see, does the pump work, right? Once we know the pump works, we want to make sure that the force main is getting to the pits and not bubbling up out of the surface. And the last thing we want to do is make sure that also the water that gets into the pits is actually draining the way it's supposed to drain. So let's give that a few minutes. I'll circle back with you in a second. All right, so we've been running water for a good minute now. The pump is almost covered. You can see the gray float over there. That's our on-off. In a few seconds, that should be up to where the pump actually engages. Toss the camera through this pipe back here, and it just goes about 2 feet into nothing. So that's just what we would refer to as a spillover pipe. That needs to be replaced and removed. Can't have any of that. So when they replace the leaking pump chamber, that'll also go. Next, toss the camera through this pipe, which is the line from the tank to here. It's all full of roots, which is problematic, but it still doesn't help us figure out this mystery pipe. So the next step, what we're gonna do is once we get the pump to cycle, we're gonna take this hose and we're gonna put it in the 2-way clean out and see if that goes to the tank. And then we're gonna go to the 3rd clean out and see if that goes somewhere else. So let's go ahead and see what we're working with, and I'll see you in a second. Alrighty, so still can't quite figure out what that mystery pipe is, but we have a pipe right here for a downspout, so I'm thinking that might be rainwater related. Downspouts run like that was very common back in the 60s. They just kind of ran it, didn't really think about where they were going. It's also possible that whoever was running that spout may not have realized it's a septic tank, you're not supposed to run anything over it. It's unknown because that pipe is blocked up, so when they go to repair the other issues, that's when we can just cut that pipe, open it up, stick a camera through, see exactly where it's going. But it doesn't look like anything connects to the basement plumbing, so it'll be fun. That's gonna be it, right? We covered a lot of ground, we looked at a lot of stuff. This particular system was a little bit goofy compared to some of the other ones that we've seen, but 1960s, you never know what you're gonna get. This particular system looks to be original, but people have done work on it, right? When we looked at the records, we've seen that somebody had to do some repairs, and those repairs look like they were kind of working, but the real big issue is that pump chamber. Now, this particular property has public sewer available, and I don't know about your area, but in our area, as soon as you basically go to pull a permit to replace a tank, drain field, pump chamber, the odds of the county granting that permit and not forcing you to connect to public, pretty low. There's a good chance that this particular property is going to end up having to transition, whether they want to or not. Now, the complicated part of transitioning from septic to sewer is where are the pipes, right? This particular property, all of the plumbing exits the rear of the home. So when they go to basically connect to the sewer, which is in the front of the home, either A, they're gonna reroute everything in the house out the front of the house, or B, they still have to put a pump chamber and pump it to the road. It depends on how the county's feeling on any given point in time, but in northeastern part of Baltimore, they will actually allow you to have ejector pits that'll pump it to the main sewer line. So it's a cheaper, easier way of doing it. If I was the homeowner, that's what I would try to do, just so that way I'm not spending that additional money to reroute all of my internal plumbing, because that's not cheap. Plumbers are not cheap, it's not fun. So by doing it that way, they should be able to have a little bit of a cheaper expense, but it's not going to be fun no matter how you slice it on this particular one. If you found some value in this, or if you found this entertaining, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. I have more videos posted every day on the world of well and septic. I never know what I'm going to get, but if I find something fun, I'm going to show you. Till next time, guys.